SCA does, the Seattle Cannabis Association, does gas chromatograph testing so that they can list the the levels of THC, CBDs, CBNs, so that you can see, is this a 23.95% THC or is this a 7? The intoxication ability is going to be different on those. However, right now, they're not being a gold standard on it. Really, if you're pulled over and you're tested positive for any trace of metabolite, and metabolite, even the quicker metabolite, will stay in your system. You can be charged with a DUI whether you're intoxicated or not. So,
my understanding was marijuana stays in your blood system for a long time.
It does. There's all the testing currently relies on metabolites, not active THC. And there's different types of metabolites that come out. But yeah, you can be tested for metabolites 30 days after you smoke, depending on your metabolism, your fat content, a number of different factors. So it's very difficult right now. Chronic use.
So such as a medical sufferer, would have that. I agree with John that the science does lag behind our understanding of the effects of alcohol on the human body. And that's one of the unfortunate aspects of prohibition, is that it's meant that funding for studies have really lagged behind. That's why 502, for instance, dedicates money for studies. And I readily acknowledge what he said, that this is a tough one. But the problem is, if we want to have progress on the legalization front, we have to start somewhere, and we have to first and foremost assure the public that we're going to strike the balance in favor of public safety, even while we're trying to advance medical knowledge and understanding.
All right, I'm making a statement for those out there who are listening, and if I'm making this statement correctly, because I'm going to go to the studio audience for questions now, there may be the odor of marijuana in your car, and you may not have smoked for a month, but there may still be marijuana in your system. And if you get stopped and get tested, you could essentially be under arrest for DUI, even though you hadn't actually smoked in a month. All right.
And that's true, but I mean, usually a cognitive test or something like that, if you're testing for THC, you're talking about a blood test, and an officer is not going to administer that on the side of the road. You're going to hopefully had to fail some sort of cognitive testing before you get to that.
A field sobriety test.
A field sobriety test.
Correct.
You can expect a field sobriety test.
Correct.
All right. I want to go to the audience for a couple of questions now.
Donovan Rivers, All Clergy, All Community Advisory Council. I want to ask you guys a question. You've done real good, Peter and John, on the issues of communicating the facts that you know of this point. But the problem lies when law enforcement and the community bump heads together on issues that are not yet addressed. So I'm asking you, can we put together a team, a group of people that can start looking at these issues now and working on them now, so when it comes to the legislator, we have more information and can go on it, and the community feels more safe on the way in progressing, to see that this is progressing to a point to where it can be legalized. And I have issues on the act of legalizing it in some areas, especially neighborhoods, but at the same time, that means that more information needs to be given. Peter, I thank you for what you're doing. John, I thank you for what you've done and what you have been, but people need to know more in order to go forward.
Answer is yes. Be happy to assist in any way I can.
And I would love to see that happen, and I don't know exactly how that would come about, whether the city would be a part of that, or whether it would be the community asking for it. But I would love to have a stakeholders group that had a governmental component, a component from the community, from my community, and a component from the various neighborhood communities to get together and to be at least doing it occasionally to talking about the issues that cannabis, cannabis, locations for smoking, all that happens, so that at least we're communicating, if nothing else.
My name is E-Dog. I'm a hip-hop artist in Seattle. Being an artist, we be around a lot of people that has had issues with marijuana legally and just, indulging in it. The question I have is, once you legalize it, what happens to all the individuals that have cases now or that are locked up because of possession of marijuana?
That's a great question. And let me say, first off, for people who have been convicted in the past, Washington recently enacted a statute which says that for felonies that have deprived you of your voting rights, for instance, as soon as you complete all of your sentencing, all fines and so forth, your voting rights are automatically restored. So the state has already taken a very progressive step toward that. But I think it's a great question. What about that 52% of our incarcerated prison population that are there for marijuana? What happens after we have legalized it? I think it's a great question. I don't have a ready answer for you, except that it's certainly marijuana possession cases. I certainly would be petitioning the judge to say, let me out. And my hope is that maybe we can unring the bell. Wouldn't it be great? We can go back. How often do we have an opportunity to go back and make amends for past injustice?
And I'd like to say as well, it's not just that. It's these young people that are being caught in the gears of the criminal justice system. It's not just the incarceration. It's the having a criminal record. It's the things that can happen to your student funding. This stuff can follow you around, and those things have to be dealt with too. In Colorado, there's been much discussion about who's going to be allowed to be a part of the cannabis industry, and even here, no felons in the cannabis industry. Well, there's maybe a grower or two that is just completely cannabis that has a felony conviction. What do you do about that at that legalization point? It is a great question, and it's something that we as a community should come together and inform. The people should be informing the government about what we want.
John, Pete, thank you for being here. Tony, thank you for doing this. My name is Wyatt W. Barkley. I'm a national recording artist and a host of an upcoming national TV show. I also had the pleasure of performing at Tony B's hip hop segment of HempFest this weekend.
Thank you for coming out.
It was a blast. It was a blast. And my question is, being a voice for my peers and my contemporaries in the community, is there any online outlets we can direct people to see? I've heard a lot of what proper usage of or responsible usage of marijuana could be, or possible ways of being considered to be abiding by whatever laws are in place now. Is there any government websites or any websites you provide for your patients that we can access, as well as being part of the technological revolution? Can we go online and see this kind of stipulated anywhere?
Yeah, there's a number of different. It's whether you're talking local or national, but local Cannabis Defense Council is online. Google them. We have, as far as the industry, you have Seattle Cannabis Association, and that's seattlecannabis.association.com. We offer some support on our website. That's nwprc.net. Then you're talking also about the larger groups, NORML, which I believe is normal.org, Marijuana Policy Project, MPP. There's Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. There's some just great resources out there. And I would encourage you to go out and become a part of your local community. This is those people from Seattle are, it's a great place to live, because we do have a community of people that can offer you support. But, there's local NORML chapters and some great group. And also www.hempfest.org. We will offer some resources there as well.
And don't forget the American Civil Liberties Union has been a leader in this, ACLU-WA for the local Washington chapter.org, ACLU.WA.org, the Drug Policy Alliance, you can Google that, and then I already mentioned newapproachwa.org, that's for the legalization initiative.
And also, to understand that, to take the pulse of the government, has their own way of communicating, and you kind of got to be savvy to it to keep it up. But the DOR makes statements about marijuana policy, and go into even your governmental thing. There are policies out there. John Diaz had a memo come out recently to law enforcement, which is fascinating to read. And
Our
if you're a
police chief.
Seattleite, those are the rules.
Our police chief.
Our chief of police.
Chief of police.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Thurman, city resident. Thank you, John. Thank you, Pete, for coming out and being willing to discuss with us where we're at on this. In the end, I want to say, it still sounded like you're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. What I want to know is how we can say this highly subjective. I know that the police department and law enforcement is in a rock and a hard place. Okay, where are we, or where do you see us? How close are we to getting cooperation from the city, the county, and the state? Because once again, you said that you have not prosecuted any cases as far as the city is concerned, but you may be prosecuted by another organization. Where are we at on bringing that together? Like coming up with a
Something
reasonable
unified throughout the state. Is
state,
that what you're saying?
yes.
You bet.
Well, one of the things is it's not you're innocent to proven guilty with marijuana. You're guilty.
And that's absolutely true, and that can't be stated enough. I mean, I do worry when I speak out in favor of legalization, for instance. I don't want to misinform anyone. It is illegal. Please do not ruin your lives. You know, when you were talking earlier, John, about the repercussions of a conviction, I think about a 17-year-old African-American man who's admitted that he used marijuana when he was a youth, and thank God he was not apprehended and prosecuted and lost his right to get government student loans and the like, because that young man's Barack Obama, who has, I think, become one of our greatest presidents ever. And you know, that's the point. We're ruining lives, and it's so important that people keep in mind that we're not there yet. We've got a long ways to go. Seattle is trying hard. Some of those other areas, you know, you could be arrested by county or metro cops on metro. There are areas, the UW, for instance, is not directly under the authority of the SPD. And so there are lots of areas within the city limits in which you could still be arrested and prosecuted. Dan Satterberg is the felony prosecutor for Seattle, and so distribution cases, manufacturer cases will ostensibly go to him. He's been very progressive and enlightened in his approach, but nonetheless, it remains illegal.
All right, I'm almost out of time here, and I want to get to a couple more questions, because we do have some more questions from the audience, and I'm going to ask the guests in the audience to keep the questions short, and you guys are going to have to keep your answers short as well, just so that we can get to them.
Thank you. I'm Julie Renner. I'm an attorney in Seattle, family law, and I'm concerned about children, obviously being a family law lawyer. What is the effects of secondhand smoke in marijuana smoking, not only to the children in a family, but let's say in a condominium or an apartment where adults might be smoking, but the children next door are being able to smell that?
Well, as I say, for the past 70 years, it's been illegal to even study it. Schedule 1 means that the drug is so dangerous that it may not even be studied. So this is one of the things that we are working against. Bottom line is, my opinion, if you have children present, it's not a good idea to expose them to any sort of secondhand smoke. I would say that if there are children involved and you need to medicate, I own a vaporizer. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Get yourself a good quality vaporizer. Maybe use edibles, tinctures, something like that. But definitely, and again, if you're living in an apartment complex in the city of Seattle, I believe that it's no smoking.
That's right.
So observe the law that's already in place. Vaporize or use other methods.